Excuse me.
Hmm?
Who are you?
Me?
Excuse me, who are you?
Oh, I'm AJ.
Excuse me,
AJ
who are
talking.
you? Excuse me, who are you? Excuse me, who are you?
Brian.
Excuse me, who are you?
Brian, are you?
Excuse me, who are you?
I'm Cool Voltaire.
Excuse me, what are you doing? What are you guys doing?
I don't know.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to memorize my line here.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. You're in process right now.
Yes, I'm in process. I have my line. I'm working
Okay.
on my motivations.
Did you like the part where I said I'm Cool Voltaire and blew out the microphone?
Well, no, because I was working.
Oh.
You don't know this, Josh, because you're not really an actor. But
Wow!
fuck! Excuse me, how many escape rooms have you worked for?
Excuse me, which escape room are you?
Maybe I actually am an actor after all, because I took that much more personally than even I was expecting.
Welcome to the world of rejection, baby.
Yeah, usually if you work in a creative field and you're not an actor, someone says you're not an actor, you're like, fuck
Like-
right, I'm
like,
not
yeah,
an
you're
actor.
goddamn
Fuck
right I'm
those
not.
guys. Especially when you work in costumes.
Maybe it's just hearing it from you specifically.
You of all people.
All people.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the worst of all possible worlds, the first and only podcast to train you in the Meisner method. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I am the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Brians, and this week we are doing an extremely Brian episode because we are talking about Satoshi Kon and his first movie, Perfect Blue.
Yes.
This is a very intense artifact of the late 90s.
It is. Intense is an understatement. I had a full
Yeah.
body reaction to this movie, and I'm excited to talk about that.
I'm
Yeah, me
not
too.
surprised. And there's a reason why Darren Aronofsky loves this movie so much,
Yeah.
because he also likes to make movies that give people full body reactions.
Absolutely.
Mother was good. Everything else we're going to say about Darren Aronofsky, I need to
Nope.
couch this in an understanding that Brian is a lover of Mother. He is
Yes,
a mother lover.
He's a mother lover. We should fuck each other's mothers?
What?
Fuck each other's moms.
Yeah.
What?
It's a
What are you
reference
talking
to
about?
It's a Lonely Island song, you uncultured
Yeah.
swine.
Don't know what you're talking. I'm talking about the movie that's an adaptation of the whole Bible with Jennifer Lawrence.
That's great.
Yeah.
in the one role that I like her
And
in.
I'm talking about Justin
What?
Timberlake and Andy Samberg.
God.
So, like, you know.
I cannot follow you into this dark, Brian Alford. What is happening?
You guys have never seen this movie before this week, right?
Correct.
I had some experience with Cohn's work, specifically Paranoia Agent was the first
Right.
thing, my first exposure to his stuff. And that was like most of my anime exposure randomly on Adult Swim at like 12:30 at night. And then I couldn't sleep for 3 days after watching that
and
episode.
I've seen Paprika.
Yes. And then I saw Paprika as well.
I guess I just sort of assumed that this movie would be kind of like Paprika, and it's not at all.
Yeah. It's
No.
like, oh, it's a little bit more adult, but we're having fun. No, sir.
No.
No. Then the fun stops. I think Paprika was the first movie that I got as a DVD from Netflix.
Back when they
Okay.
sent it in the red envelopes, yeah.
So I remember watching Paprika, and then I would get DVDs through Blockbuster's mail-in system because my
Yeah,
sister
yeah.
subscribed to that, and it was better than Netflix's because you could just return it to Blockbuster and then immediately like get the next one sent to you.
Sure.
And I remember getting Perfect Blue through that. I had watched Paprika. You know, I watched everything by him because at that point there weren't a whole lot of movies. And then unfortunately in 2010 he passed away.
Yeah.
And I remember where I was when I read that news because I had already seen everything by him at that point. I remember, like, that was when I was working on the Disney Channel movie.
Oh, the Disney Channel original movie Lemonade Mouth starring Brian Alford.
It
Yes.
did not star me. I was an extra, but I was working on it.
I have approximately 20 stills that would argue otherwise.
Yes. Could a background actor do this?
Appears in foreground.
It was really weird though in Lemonade Mouth when it started like reflecting your own personal life, like how midway through, like the main protagonist became a character from New Mexico who had some
Yeah.
identity disorder issues.
I really liked the part where you put the lemonade in your mouth.
I don't think I ever did that while shooting Lemonade Mouth.
Really? Not even at Crafty? They didn't have like
Oh, no, we had lemonade at the holding tent, and it was awful lemonade. It was the worst
no.
lemonade.
How ironic.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
come
usually
on.
drank iced tea.
not even an Arnold Palmer?
Could mix those up,
Yeah.
make your own.
Boy, this lemonade sure is shitty. I'd love to put it inside this other drink that is not shitty. I'd love to have an Arnold Palmer that makes my day worse.
Like hanging out with the real Arnold Palmer.
Anyway, I remember being at the casino that we were shooting the quote Madison Square Garden sequence at the end of that movie.
Yeah, world's
Yeah.
tiniest
Which was also-
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that is the Santa Ana Star Casino.
Love that. Absolutely love
and
that.
Incredible.
we were in holding, and I had my little iPod Touch, which like just had Wi-Fi or whatever, and I was just like looking at the news, and then that headline that Satoshi Kon had passed away. It was only in his 40s. He had gotten a pancreatic cancer diagnosis, and so it was just one of those like really fast things. And then he had this blog post that was released the day after he died that still puts me in tears. I was watching the documentary about him last night, and a complete wreck by the end of it. He is a filmmaker that means so much to me, and he's a really interesting example of someone who kind of makes I wouldn't say he makes the same movie every time, but he's making a movie basically about the exact same thing. It is the same topic every single time, except maybe Tokyo Godfathers.
What is
Right.
it specifically about his style or approach or whatever that speaks to you so strongly?
I think it's two things. I think he and I share a lot of opinions about the world, because he's kind of a moral crusader behind it all. You especially see this in Paranoia Agent. He's fascinated by the way that identities and personalities are segmented, and that the way that fiction blends with reality. But he's also very concerned with the ways that is bad, that's a bad thing to happen. Like the character of Moromi, the little pink dog in Paranoia Agent,
Yes.
which is undeniably cute and sort of a Hello Kitty stand-in, and also maybe the worst thing to happen to humanity.
You really see it in Perfect Blue, right? Everything that you're talking
Perfect Blue,
about.
there's nothing positive really going on. There's
Yeah.
just that horrible mix of reality and fiction. And the other thing about him that I really like is how tight dramaturgically he is. Everything that
Right.
his movies do serve the point, to the point where even if he's going to do a sequence where someone sings at a concert and then she goes home and we see her mundane life, fuck that. We're going to cut between those two events,
Yeah.
so that
Yes.
they're one thing.
Now that we are in a place where we've been doing this show for a while, and we certainly don't have like an honest to goodness public profile in the way that the
Yeah.
protagonist of this movie
No,
does.
sir.
But the nature of parasocial relationships, the things that people expect out of
Yeah.
their sort of parasocial friends, maybe it's just because I have been on this trip now. I've been in Europe like for the past week and a half now.
Well, I mean, it's like when the Beatles went on Ed Sullivan. You're just surrounded by screaming fans.
Exactly. I have to keep
Yeah.
them at bay. No, I've been spending so much time with our friends who we also do shows with.
Yeah.
And
Right.
for one reason or another, it seems that a lot of the conversations that I've been having have been turning back to this question of like parasocial relationships, duty to your audience, the version of yourself that you perform in a given entertainment product, as opposed to like your true actual self. How do you reconcile these things? I saw Abby Thorne's play, which although technically not about a parasocial relationship in this online sense, was about basically the gist of it is that there is a guy who begins watching her regularly through a camera, and they develop this very unhealthy relationship that is based on sort of this voyeuristic performance. And both of them kind of get something out of it. But then obviously in the end, it's based on a foundation that could never fucking work. So weirdly, that felt very much in conversation with this movie. And I think these are just things that I've been thinking about all week.
The protagonist of this film is both a pop idol and an actress sort of simultaneously. You can pretty much copy paste that onto anything in the arts or anything that involves a parasocial relationship. And it pretty much holds up. I don't consider what I do on the show to be the entirety of me, right? This is us while we're on. We are actively speaking into a microphone. We are actively performing these characters who, to me in my head, in order just to keep myself legitimately sane, is when I'm talking on this podcast, I am the worst of all possible AJs. I am not AJ Diddy, because I pitch my voice up when we talk on this show. I don't usually talk
Yeah, I do
up
too.
here.
I actually have a really deep, sexy voice. People love my voice.
You have to do these things, and it's a thing you discover about yourself, because bringing so much of yourself into your work means that there can sometimes be an unhealthy balance where you don't know where you end and the work begins, and that's where
Yes.
things get really, really dangerous, as we see in Perfect Blue.
I was actually just listening. Wallace Shawn went on the podcast TrueAnon because
What?
he's got a play that's opening.
Why?
in a few days.
Yes!
It's actually great. One of the things that he leads with, Brace has never seen like the big things that Wallace Shawn has done. So
Wait, so
he's
he's
mostly
never
familiar
seen
with
The
his
Princess
plays.
Bride?
He's never seen The
What?
Princess Bride. And he was talking about some New Yorker article that was like talking, people will see Wallace Shawn, who's so distinctive, out on the street, and they'll be like, inconceivable at him.
Mm-hmm.
And Brace is like, that has to be annoying because like you have this body of work that's over here that you do with Andre Gregory and, John Early and Maria Ditzia now. All this stuff that you've been writing for decades. But then the things that people know you for are Rex and The Princess Bride and The Cosby Show and whatever, the Haunted Mansion movie or whatever. And does that frustrate you? And he said, yeah, it used to frustrate me. I just don't believe in the individual anymore. I just don't believe that the guy performing the play is the same as the guy brushing his teeth.
Sure.
Right. We
Sure.
all kind of hold these multiplicities within ourselves that the moment that this screen turns off, it's like I have a different face and it's like I have a different voice. And when I go out, when I leave the apartment, that's a different version. That's a me that has to be more on than the one who's in here. Right.
Right.
Or even like the version of you, like if you're dating someone a month in versus 14 months in, you're going to behave differently around those people. You're not going to be able to recover that 1 month version of yourself.
I mean, you can, but it's exhausting, right? To
Well,
maintain that first month version of yourself.
Because also the first month version of yourself is an incomplete version of yourself by design.
Right.
Early on in any relationship, whether you're talking about a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a relationship with a performer, all you know about them is what they're willing to show you. And if what they show you early on is something that you're like, oh, I don't know about that, they're more likely to pick up stakes and run. Whereas further on into a relationship, not only are you more familiar with the difficult or negative aspects of who a person is, you're also more willing to accept them because you're able to integrate that into your broader understanding of who the person is.
Right. And sometimes it just solves some mysteries about some weird things you saw in that first month.
Right.
It's like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And then 14 months in, it's like, there it is. I found it. Oh, it was a panic attack. I see.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
and nowhere is this more apparent than in those parasocial relationships where the rules start to get broken.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And that's what Perfect Blue, even going back to the original novel, that's what this story is about. It is about a parasocial relationship that's built up. And it is like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to kind of feel like I know this person. I enjoy watching them sing. There's like in the same way that I read the news about Satoshi Kon, this director who I've at that point had never even like watched an interview with. I'd never even heard him speak. And then finding out that he had died was so emotionally devastating for me because I'd seen that work. That's just the way of things, right? People kind of, just the way that discourse sort of works, when people pick up the word parasocial relationship, they start to think of it as like, oh, here's this bad thing, right? And people say this, not to be too parasocial, but,
Right.
which is, I mean, they're expressing a real thing. They're expressing like a real, like, I don't want to get too up in your business because we don't know each other. But at the same time, it's like, no, this is just a parasocial relationship. This was a word
Right.
that was designed to describe the experience of watching Jackie Gleason on TV. Everyone knew who Jackie Gleason was and who his character Ralph Cramden was, but Jackie Gleason didn't know them. And there's no way around that. That's just how it is.
The nature of the parasocial relationship is something that we dug into very heavily in the episode that we did about apology videos, because the
Yes.
nature of a public apology is that you are forced to perform some form of contrition to an audience who thinks they know you, and they experience then this sense of betrayal because the version of you that they just saw does not align fundamentally with the version of you they thought they knew.
The thing is, Satoshi Kon really did understand this nature of parasocial relationships in the bad sense, right? Especially as the internet starts to get adopted throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Because Kon, of course, started not in anime, but in manga. And he worked with a lot of the big names. He did some independent comics, won a number of awards with like one-offs that he did in various magazines. He worked with Mamoru Oshii, the creator of Ghost in the Shell. There's this interview with Oshii. There's a documentary about Kon that got put out. It's a French documentary from 2021 that's kind of hard to get a hold of. I found a version on Bilibili that had it with English subtitles. But Oshii talks about working with him. And he's like, when I worked with this guy, he was like, yeah, I'm a genius. I don't want to be working for anyone else. I'm too good for this.
Wow.
He kind of has to concede that he was right. But like the work that you have to do making manga, it destroys your health, right?
Yes.
This happened with Kon. This happened with the creator of Berserk. You're just working all day and all night, every single day, smoking, getting paid like pennies per page. And the only way out, the only way to get something stable is to work in film, which is like also a bunch of bullshit, like making animation.
And this is honestly kind of the case with all comics, not just manga. You know, you have to be a real fucking sicko to dedicate your life to comics.
But there's also, there's the matter of fandom. There's something very spooky about dealing with otaku, with nerds, with fans. And this is a calcified, ugly, very male culture. I think whenever you get to something where like the gender parity starts to get really off, because you have this with like romance novels today and the kind of insane behavior that happens on like Goodreads. And I mean, like another great piece of contemporary media around this time that engages with otaku is End of Evangelion, which I don't think either of you have seen.
No.
But it factors straight into the movie what starts to happen, because like the movie takes a long time to get made and the fans start like vandalizing the offices of the animators at Gainax, right? They're sending them hate mail. They're sending them death threats.
Right, because otaku are just the most entitled fans in the world.
And Kon dealt with that directly in the short time that he was making manga. His last manga was this idea of a comic that starts to go meta outside of its creator's control, outside of the character's control. They start to realize like we're inside of comic panels. What the hell's going on? And then it got canceled. And he started moving into animation, first on an OVA, which is a straight-to-video animation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that he was like, cool, I'm in a studio now. I'm going to become a director. I'm going to just like go to the studio head and be like, give me a movie.
I will say that Opus was one of the first books that Brian ever lent me, like pretty early on in our friendship.
Oh,
and
you
I
read my copy of it?
Yeah. I still have it. It's still in my apartment. Yeah.
Oh, I
forgot.
forgot. I just thought that was yours. Okay.
No. That's the one you lent me. And I read it and I got really sad because I was so invested in it. And then it would just never be finished.
Stops.
Yeah, it just stops.
Right as it's getting good. And I haven't read it. I don't even remember all the details of what was in it, but it shows that sort of basic idea that he just develops so much more smartly in his future projects.
What year is it then that he stops doing manga?
So this gets canceled in 96.
Opus does.
So then he goes over to Madhouse. And Madhouse was making a name for itself, making pretty low budget, more adult oriented fare. And through the 90s, by the late 90s, they wanted to get more into realism. They wanted to be able to tell a story that wasn't period, that wasn't science fiction, didn't have demons. So what Madhouse does is they get the rights to a light novel, which is not a comic. That's just a term for a type of paperbacks that sometimes has like.
I prefer to call it a Death Note.
I didn't realize at some point it got translated into English. Back when I was looking at this when I first saw the movie, it had not been translated into English, but now it has been. But I also can't find a copy of it, so I'll have to pirate it, I guess. Perfect Blue, the novel, is very, very different from the movie. From what I was reading of other people talking about the book, it is pretty evenly split between two perspectives. You have Mima, this singer who wants to be an actress, who wants to mature in her career, does a nude scene, things like that. And then you have the perspective of this stalker who is so obsessed with her old life, doesn't want her to mature, doesn't want her to change, needs her to be like encased in amber. And then he goes and kills a whole bunch of people. It sounds like what we'd now call an incel mindset, right? In the late 90s, incel was coined, I think, in 1998. It did not mean what it means now. Yeah, it started as a little forum or like BBS thing. It was actually started by a woman.
Was it a news group?
It was something like that. And it was just a group of people who were involuntary celibate. They just hadn't had sex, but they wanted to at some point, and they were dealing with romantic difficulties and whatever.
Sure.
The whole sort of incel ideology aspect of it ossified and developed over time.
I just looked this up. It was called Alana's Involuntary Celibacy Project, a blog and mailing list founded in 1997. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, right at
Wow.
the same time as this movie. But like, I'm sure there were people who were on that forum who think that way, who thought that way back then. And that's the kind of character, right? Someone who has this entitlement, especially to a woman's body and a woman's personality. This book was written by Yoshikazu Takeuchi. Him or his agent or whatever had pitched this over to Madhouse. And Cohn was like, this is a really cool idea. Just looking at the treatment, right? Woman who's a pop idol, wants to become a star, does these more mature movie roles, and then there's a stalker who's killing people and going after her.
Yeah.
He's like, here's the thing. I am not going to read the book. I've already got an idea for a movie from this, and we're just going to like blow it up from here. And so he gets a screenwriter, and they work on this idea that ends up becoming more and more about this woman and the isolation that she feels as her career escalates to a point where reality becomes a big open question mark.
Speaking to that idea of these incels that feel they have a right to these women's bodies, and the way, what I found so striking about Perfect Blue as just a piece of culture is that it sort of takes that idea and then expands it outward, that it's not just these incels.
Yeah.
The entire industry is based on that expectation of women's bodies.
Yeah. And not just men with that expectation, but women too.
Yes.
As part of this entire patriarchal system that, as we'll see, like part of what Mima is doing by leaving this idol image behind is she's trying to escape this sort of control that is overwhelming and always on her. And it leads to another thing that's just controlled and another thing that's controlled and another thing. None of it is ever really in her grasp, because it doesn't matter what you do with your body, with your sexuality or anything. It will always be sexualized. It will always be controlled, and it will always be sort of fastened under patriarchy and under this larger culture of obsession and parasocial relationships.
HTTP. This morning when I got off the train, left foot first, all the bad stuff started. I always make it a point that my right foot goes first into the train and into the bath. Somebody sure knows me. What's this? Today was my 21st birthday. Yukiko, Ray, and the staff at the agency held a party for me. It was terrific. Coming home, I went grocery shopping at the usual store. I bought myself mineral water and milk. I get the best water, and the milk just has to be cow brand. I have to allow myself at least that luxury. And of course I get the right brand of food for my precious fish, the kind they like. Where did this come from? How do they know so much?
Another thing that this movie is famous for is its relationship to Darren Aronofsky.
Yes.
The movie Requiem for a Dream lifts a full scene out of this movie whole cloth. And by full scene, I mean a short. It's a short scene. It's two shots.
Yeah.
But then Aronofsky got the idea that he wanted to do his own adaptation of Perfect Blue in the US.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't take off. He wanted to get the rights, and there was some work and kind of a first pitch draft of whatever the movie would be. That movie never got made. And then 10 years after that point, he made Black Swan, which is basically just Perfect Blue.
It's Perfect Blue in the ballet world. I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
Basically, we have two sides of this story. We have Darren Aronofsky's and we have Satoshi Kon's. And basically, Aronofsky's like, I met the guy for lunch. I told him I was a huge fan of his work. We had this really wonderful thing where he was, he said nice things about me and my work. And I really feel like we had this connection. And then you hear Satoshi Kon's side of it. And he was like, they told me this guy was a fan. And I said, well, then maybe you shouldn't have like fully copied my work. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
It seems like there were two very separate lunches that were happening simultaneously.
There's more than one lunch.
Yeah.
So we're going with Darren Aronofsky, who's a bit of a bullshitter, and with Satoshi Kon, who was an often quite bitter man.
Yes.
None of his movies outside of Paprika ever became very successful in his life.
Right.
Basically, it started with Paprika kind of exploding, and then people started discovering the older work a lot more, and the profile of those movies continued to grow. I think that Paranoia Agent was a mild success on TV,
Right.
but for the most part, his films didn't make a whole lot of profit, which is why it's really impressive on the side of Madhouse that they just kept giving him movies, or just really impressive on Cohn's ability to pitch.
Right.
Because he wasn't necessarily bringing in the big bucks for the studio.
Yeah.
But, and I think a lot of this does come from the fact that Requiem for a Dream has a much higher profile than Perfect Blue. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it had a way higher. So many people were just unaware of Perfect Blue, but had seen Requiem for a Dream.
That's the other thing is I think that Satoshi Kon's work, particularly in the last decade or so, has really gotten a critical reappraisal.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of that bitterness was that Aronofsky was making a lot of money and Satoshi Kon was not making nearly as much money.
So the way that Aronofsky tells the story is they actually met when Aronofsky was in Japan doing the tour for Pi.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.